Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, the story continues.
What story? What story?
The story continues. The story of Bediako Brown in Ghana.
Okay.
I'm reading from my latest book, The Snake,
2020.
2020.
And there we go, Snake 2020.
Our friend is visiting a village to try to get a feeling for what Ghanaian life is really like. And he's staying with the auntie of a girlfriend of his in a little village called Tsito
Oh, okay.
in the northern part of Ghana.
Like that.
I'm going to read 2 chapters. They're both pretty short.
Oh, okay. Very
And
nice.
explain a few things about what's happening as I go along concerning this person right here.
Oh, let me zoom in on him. That person.
This is a
right.
friend of ours named Rashid Bahati,
Yeah.
and Brother Bahati agreed
To
to
use.
pose for a photo that would indicate that he was the Tarzan of Africa.
There we go.
A black Tarzan for a change.
Okay.
As you can see from the previous book, The Snake Doctor,
Book that came after.
yes,
Okay.
he posed. We were looking for someone who had that arrogant look to him,
Okay.
and nobody is better at that than Rashid.
Well, he's an entrepreneur of
Entrepreneur,
great quality.
film importer, all around good guy.
Yes.
Excellent bicyclist. I
Okay.
believe his son is a professional
Bicycles.
bicyclist.
Yes. All
Okay.
right.
Here we go. This is chapter 8. He wasn't certain that she had gotten a joke of it till he saw a gleam come to the corner of her eyes. He's talking to this school teacher in the town, in the village of Tsito. Her name is Mrs. Deku, and she is one of these very polite English educated African women who is sort of, well, what she is. He wasn't certain that she had gotten a joke of it till he saw a gleam come to the corner of her eyes. And you will be back, I presume. Presumably tomorrow, a half hour before classes begin. I don't want our children to be distracted from learning what you have to teach them. That's very thoughtful of you, Mr. Brown. My pleasure. And please, Headmistress Deku, call me Kojo. 9:30 a.m. He strode back through the village, avoiding the muddiest spot, firmly aware of his visit to Tsito School and his exchange with the headmistress was going to be shot ahead of him via village to wireless. Aunt Eugenia met him in the front of the hut with her by now cool but amused demeanor. There's water for your bath. Aunt Eugenia asked few questions, fed him a variety of foods, and left him to do whatever he felt like doing. This is Kojo writing to his parents. Dear Mom and Dad, I'm spending a week in a village in the Volta region called Tsito. Tsito.
Okay.
It's small. It's so small that I doubt if it would be on the map. I'm living in the home of my girlfriend's aunt. Her name is Eugenia, and she's a real person. I felt the urge to get out of the big city to see what was happening in the little place. You know how it is. It may sound too romantic, but life in the village is a groove. It's rainy season now, mud up to your ankles everywhere, but it doesn't create unnatural problems here. I think in some ways that might be considered the key word, natural, unnatural. The naturalness of this scene gives life a certain rhythm, none of it too fast for the human heart. There is nothing to do, to rush for, or about. There's no hustle for food, it grows everywhere. If you drop a seed from your melon, you might find a melon patch there a week later. This appears to be a relatively healthy place. I haven't seen any evidence of those horrible tropical diseases you find in some places. There are a lot of old people around. Old people, people in their 70s, 80s, 90s. Please tell Granddad, I'll write him. I think the natural rhythm that I spoke of has something to do with the age thing. When it gets dark, people go to bed. When it gets light, they get up. I know this must sound terribly simplistic, but I'm experiencing it for the first time. It seemed like my first trip here was a prerequisite for understanding what is happening to me now. I wouldn't want to live in Tsito or any other small place. I think my liking for neon signs and thousands of frantic people would create a problem for me here. But for now, it's a groove. I'll write more later. Love, Kojo. I've only been here a day and a half. He finished his brief note, sealed it in an envelope, and suddenly thought about how I was going to get to America. Aunt Eugenia was sewing by the light of her favorite lantern. She had placed a newer one in his room. Auntie, I have a letter to send to America. How do I send it? She looked at a distant point for a few moments, as though she were trying to remember something. Oh, someone will come here. They will take it to the city for you. Don't worry. The thought occurred to him, I'll probably be the one who gets to the city before anyone else. Oh, well. I'm going for a little walk. A walk? For a stroll around the village. She looked slightly puzzled, but waved him out. Why would anyone want to walk if they didn't have to? Mm-hmm. Tuesday evening, the 7 o'clock news on the TV porch. You're welcome. He nodded at the familiar faces and, as before, was given a choice seat. Government TV. That's what it is, government TV. A roster of well-fed politicians stand behind podiums across the country telling the assembled audiences, both in the auditorium they were speaking in and the bigger ones watching TV, that everything is okay. Mm-hmm. Everything is going to be okay. Politicians. Kojo exchanged cynical glances with the elders. Politicians. Politricians. After the news, he decided not to run the risk of watching the video movie. I don't feel like tripping tonight. He excused himself and wandered off. People are friendly but reserved. If I speak, they speak. But there are no welcoming committees. He made a mental note to talk with Auntie, Peter, and maybe one of the elders about the African American thing. He had to confess he had no idea about how they thought of him, a brother out of the diaspora. People glanced at him, but they didn't run up to hail him as a long-lost somebody returned after all these years. Life seemed so simple, it was almost dull. Mm-hmm. He stood for a few minutes watching a man dissect a sheep. Others came to his side to look at what he was looking at. The sheep being butchered. What's interesting about that? They continued doing what they were doing. He left the scene after a few minutes. Yeah, what's so interesting about a sheep being cut up? Mm-hmm. He took a half step toward the local drinking bar and senses his urge. I don't want to drink. I don't need a drink. This doesn't even seem like the kind of place where drinking is necessary. The fact that there was only one drinking bar seemed to confirm his premise. The old men drink, but I guess that's the prerogative of age. He strolled slowly, confidently. Once you get to know the signposts, it's easy. You turned off of a beaten path for a bit, feeling adventurous, and after a few steps stopped cold. The girl was rinsing her naked body off in the hazy moonlight. He had seen her on the TV porch staring at the screen with intensity. Village etiquette, African etiquette, demanded that he not see her. He could not simply ignore her. He wouldn't see her. How old? 16, 18 years old. Bathing in the bush, chocolate dark skin, gorgeous figure. He was tempted to speak to her as he passed within a half a yard of her bathing space, but canceled out the urge. Don't do that. It would square your game. But he could feel her eyes on him as he walked past. Time for the evening meal. He sat on a bench in front of the hut after eating kinky fish and pepper. Hot pepper. Tsito. Aunt Eugenia was inside, tidying up before making her disappearance. Auntie, please come and talk with me. The old lady came out, sat near him on the bench, and turned toward him with her usual look of amusement.
Not bad. Nothing to do, boy. Nothing to do.
Yeah, you just out. I'm going to have to introduce you to my grandfather. I wanted to ask you about a few things. The old lady's expression changed from amusement to concern. Oh, it's nothing serious. I'm just curious. I want to know about a few things. Oh, yes, please. Kojo leaned back against the hut. What do I want to know about it? What I want to know about? It all seems to be so straight up here. Let's say I want to marry a woman. Somebody here. Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how would I go about it? What would I do? The concerned expression gave way to a clear case of pleasure. Oh, no problem, no problem. You tell me the girl. No. I don't have a girl in mind. I'm just interested in the procedure, the process, How would I go about it if I were interested in somebody? He could see the gleam in her eyes, fired up by the flickering light from the lantern. Don't try to fool me, boy. I know you're taking a liking to the school, madam. Yes, of course. You'd have all the info in that exchange this morning. By now, everybody in town must know that me and Miss Cutie Pie Deku exchanged words. News travels faster than light here. But no, sorry about that, folks. I got Miss Grace in town and Sister Ferguson across the water. We will have somebody to speak with our father. Is that all? I mean, a bottle of schnapps or gin. Formerly, they take many things. Like what? Oh, many things. Cows, sheep, goats, yams, corn, chickens, cloths, pots, pans, many things. But now modern time, they only have permission. He thought he detected a note of disdain for the modern time in her voice.
Yes.
Which time do you prefer, now or the old times? Oh, I like modern times. Old time was very hard for the woman. The woman worked hard all the time, take care of children. Sometimes the man, he may slap the woman. What would happen now if the man slapped the woman? If she does not deserve, she will take him to court. The feminist movement, justice, if she does not deserve. The mosquitoes came up on them from nowhere. Aunt Eugenia popped up to close the door. There is mosquito coil there. They come with rainy season, many. She was obviously about to make her disappearing act happen. Auntie, where do you go at night? She pointed to a hut 3 huts away. I go to my sister. And she was gone. Kojo sat swatting mosquitoes for a couple of minutes and went inside. No whim against these rascals. There inside the hut was cool, the atmosphere comfortable. Kojo lit the mosquito coil, took off his shirt and sprawled on his mud platform bed. Damn, I feel good. Good workout this morning, a short, quick movement in the grim outhouse, only a few yards from the buzzing maggots. Maybe that's the way it's done. When one hole fills up and the maggots take over and start buzzing too loud, they move. Crazy scenarios swarmed around in his mind. I'm fooling myself. to think that I can be in an atmosphere like this and put my camera mind on the back burner. Several stories had grabbed him in the middle of the night. The African-American couple, devout nationalists, who decided to live in an African village the way our ancestors did. The African student returns to the village with his snooty English wife. The village elder who gets a scholarship to America and returns as a hippie, almost. Several of the better ideas had skipped out on him because he couldn't find a pen and paper in the dark. He had solved the problem by placing a ballpoint and pad on the small table beside his bed. Tsito, where Kojo stayed for a few days. Strange, I don't feel that I'm missing anything. No daily newspapers, no magazines, very few books. Aunt Eugenia had proudly handed him 4 Reader's Digest when he asked her if she had any books other than the Bible. No rat race, no arbitrary Uzi shootings, no cocaine, heroin, latest drug traffic. Who am I fooling? I'm missing everything there is to be missed. The espresso and quaint little Italian joints with sophisticated ladies. The immediate access to any part of the world. Hundreds of vibes that said, now dig this. The colors of all the crazy emotions that go to make up an urbane happening. I miss filmmaking. Yeah, that's what I really miss. I miss not being able to shoot the scene, to go inside of a character's head with subliminal stuff and bring out what I've been thinking. I miss the give and take of quick-minded people who are into media. The villagers are quick-minded, no doubt about that, but their mind's on another set. They're into another vibe. They can't see themselves as picturesque, film interesting, exotic, or any of that. They're at ease with themselves. Eves. The thought crossed his mind for a few minutes. Eves. It meant that he couldn't understand what other black people in the U.S. Pan-African sense of the word were saying to each other. They were speaking a foreign language. Eves. The trippy part of it was that all of them, or most of them, could understand him after they had turned away from their tree, Ga, Fanti, Gonja, Konkomba, Adangme, Hausa, Eve, or whatever. That irked him a bit. It was as though his own people had a secret code that he couldn't crack. But no, his better reasoning gave a more solid foundation to his thought. No doubt the European slave masters wanted us to speak his language. Why he only felt comfortable with us after he had turned Kwame into Jacob or George or Joshua. I got to get into an African language to recover this, a serious part of me. He remembers father talking on the subject years back. Kojo, despite no matter what these propagandists have tried to promote, we've never been proud of speaking English. We've done every doggone thing in the world to retain our speech patterns. If you take the semantical journal seriously, you'll read that Professor Digambottom has discovered that the people of northeastern Wamajan land have been using Yoruba grammar for days. It took him back to something way back when I was in high school. I couldn't understand why we had to say be all the time, like I be, you be, they be. It be. It'd be a thing. It'd be that. It'd be like that.
It'd be like that.
And I'm not going to jump out of the box and say I'm on top of the answer. No, not even now. But I do know that we've retained a hell of a lot more than the usual suspects want to make us believe. We are the newest Africans. The newest Africans, Dad. If that ain't the title for an avant-garde film, I'll kiss you all over. The newest Africans. All of what that implied took him off into a hard hour's sleep. The twilight section happened at the end of the sleep, just as he was waking up for a midnight piss. He fumbled his way out of the hut, went around back, carefully wrapped in his all-purpose bath towel and shot a stream into the mud away from the hut. I'm going to have to get a chamber pot in here. What am I, an old man? Running out to pee at night. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I have a bladder infection.
Oh, Lord.
Suddenly, 100 hours of paranoid medical wisdom plugged his ears up. Don't get sick in Ghana. In Africa, the hospitals are cemeteries. Don't get sick in Africa. We dump poison medicine over there. Even a doctor, one of his father's friends, had suavely warned him, Kojo, I wouldn't fuck without a raincoat if I were you. Nor would I drink unboiled water, eat unwashed vegetables, walk in village rivers, swim anywhere, eat any food from a street stand, have anything to do with anything that didn't look sterile. What would you say about that language, Doc? How do I handle that? If I'm going to learn a few words of Ewe, will I be poisoned? The dream that spoke to him was not about disease or cultural paranoia, it was about money. The money came from an unidentifiable source, mostly $100 bills and many, many 50s. For your film, Kojo, for your film. A subconscious voice whispered to him, for your film, for your film. He stared at the sunlight streaming through the window and listened to Aunt Eugenia doing something in the next room. The rainy season, I thought it rained all the time. No rain, Wednesday. Good morning, Auntie. Good morning. I'm going to the school to do my workout. Oh, but there's no one there at this hour. So the word has been put out there about me and Miss Cutie Pie Deku. That's the way I like it. Will you take food now? No, I'll bath and eat when I return. Poor sister doesn't have the slightest idea what a workout means. Here in this place, people eat for the energy to do work, and I'm going to do a workout on an empty stomach so I won't be bogged down by food. Go figure.
Bye.
Headmistress Cutie Pie Deku and students. Nice timing. He was finishing his last series of kicks when they started filing in. He exchanged a friendly but distant wave with the lady and stepped away cleanly. No need to start getting into scenes that will create problems later on. Red with plantain. Auntie, your black-eyed peas and plantain was delicious. Black-eyed peas? You call them beans, we call them black-eyed peas. Oh, I see, said the blind man. I'm going for a little walk, be back soon. He couldn't resist giving her a little peck on the cheek. She looked stunned and stared at him curiously as he strolled down the path that would take him into the forest that surrounded the village. He had paid close attention to the landmarks and felt confident that he could call loud enough if he got lost for someone to find him. 100 yards on the path, he turned and could only see the steeple of the church, the tallest structure in the village. That'll be my reference point. 200 yards on, and the church steeple was blotted out by the tangled web of the forest. He didn't feel nervous, but he wasn't as much at ease as he had been. The sound of someone singing, mingled with a rhythmic chop, 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 drew him in that direction. The hacked-out path around a half-acre of tall corn stalks brought him face to face with a young farmer. Good morning, sir. You are welcome. Thank you. The young man, Kojo estimated they were about the same age, rushed to get a bottle of water from a makeshift lean-to hut. Oh, thank you. He drank. Damn, I didn't realize how thirsty I was. He passed the bottle back to the farmer who capped it and stood with neutral expression on his face. So, this is your farm, huh? Oh, no, my farm other side. He had pointed in a distant way. This is my father-in-law farm. I work today for him. Kojo felt like asking a half a dozen questions. Do you come here to work on your father-in-law's farm every Wednesday? Are you doing this as payment for his daughter's hand in marriage? Are you a sharecropper? What's the deal? Well, take it easy, okay? He walked in another direction, smiling to himself. the man is out here trying to chop a tree stump out of the ground, and the best I can come up with, take it easy, okay?
Well, if you wanted to work out.
You chop out that tree stump.
That's good.
Well. The forest at mid-morning was damp but not unpleasant. No Tarzan swinging through the trees, no natives running around mumbling Wanatua or whatever it was they used to have us saying in those old stupid-ass movies. He walked slowly, meditatively taking it all in. The usual, unusual formations of tree roots growing above ground, the giant ferns that looked like something from another age, the grandness of it. The only evidence of wildlife he could discover on the ground was the quick shake and tremble of leaves as he walked on the spongy ground. Wonder what that was. Birds with colored patterns he'd never dreamed of danced on branches near him, flew overhead. He could no longer hear the chopping sound. Does that mean he stopped chopping, or did I walk beyond hearing range? A large log drew him to it. He inspected it carefully, looking for snakes, scorpions, ants, and straddled it to gaze around. Kojo had been raised on wild world of animals, Wild Kingdom, and a few other cable stations that focused on life in places where the natural life was still alive. He didn't fear having giant snakes fall on his body and coil him to death, or a sneaky leopard prowling up behind him. They heard me stomping through here and split. Or if they didn't hear me, they smelt me. Smells. He worried the odor through his nose for a couple of beats before turning to his left. A man stood 2 yards from him. A lean, dark-skinned man with dazzling dark eyes and long strips of matted hair running down the sides of his face and back.
Yes, okay.
This man.
That man! You also have another photo of him. The photo there. Okay.
I'll show you both of them.
Yes, please.
This is that tree. Standing straight up when it was standing straight up.
Yes.
Before it got chopped down.
Yes. There we go. All right. That man. The man standing beside him.
You'll have to excuse me.
He looked over to his left and he saw a man.
I lost my place.
Yeah, he straddled the log, and then he looked over to his left and the man was standing.
That's right. I'm just kidding. I didn't lose my place. He didn't fear having giant snakes fall on his body and call him to death, or a sneaky leopard crawl up behind him. He worried the odor of this man through his nose. The man folded his arms across his chest and leaned against a tree. Kojo filmed the scene immediately and titled it Jungle Street Corner. The odor was coming from the man. Kojo tried to place it, to put it in some kind of perspective. Never smelled a human being smell like that. It wasn't a stink, but rather like a wild perfume, an aroma. The two men looked at each other without malice, without any self-consciousness, as though they were not neutral observers. This brother has got to be living out here. Talk about Tarzan. Kojo studied the man's face, his body, the raffia-type skirt he wore on a low fringe around his waist. He blinked, thinking of what he should say, and the man disappeared. The disappearance unsettled him. What? Am I hallucinating or something? The man reappeared about 5 yards to his right, his arms still folded, the serene expression undisturbed. Kojo made a snap decision. Go with the flow, don't freak out, go with the flow. He also decided to allow the man to speak first. The split second that it took for him to arrange his thoughts saw the man disappear again. A second later, Kojo smelled him from behind him. Well, I didn't see a weapon in his hand. Kojo slowly twisted around to see the man straddling the log. He stood and turned to face him. Fast as this brother can move, I wouldn't be able to do anything to defend myself in any case. They straddled the log, facing each other. Maybe he's wild. I don't want to freak him out. My brother, don't disappear on me again, okay? Damn, I said I was going to let him speak first. Oh, well, it's done deal. A slow, easy smile spread across the man's mouth, revealing beautifully white teeth. Okay. You speak English? Yeah, I speak English. Kojo tried to place the accent, the tone, the flavor of his speech. It wasn't like anything he'd ever heard. A few words and you realize that you've been taken to another plane. How did you learn to speak such excellent English? I went to England, America, where they speak it. How? Kojo blurted out. I flew. The man said and disappeared. Kojo was trying to be cool, but he felt that his heart was making too much noise in this quiet place.
Okay.
He looked around casually, trying to chill his panic out. The man was sitting on this log with me now, and now he's gone, disappeared. Or am I losing my marbles? He stood and yawned, trying to preserve his cool, and began to retrace his steps back to the village. As an afterthought, he announced in a conversational tone, "Nice meeting you. See you tomorrow, about the same time." Okay. The reply came to him from two directions. Okay. Okay. It took all of the composure he could muster to walk through the village on trembling legs. Aunt Eugenia met him 10 huts away from her own hut. "Ah, Kojo, you are here. We thought you were lost in the forest. It is not a good place to be at night." "Oh no, I wasn't lost. I just fell asleep under a tree." "Atu told us that you stopped to take water and that you walked into the forest, into a place we will not go." The place we will not go. Uh-oh. Come, I have prepared chop. He sat on the bench beside the old lady, his belly plumped out from a dinner of banku and fish stew, trying to put his time elements back together. "Auntie, remember what time I left when I went for my walk? It was in the morning, and I returned at twilight." "You slept long in the forest," she said dryly. He couldn't contain himself any longer. He had to tell her, somebody. "Auntie, I didn't go to sleep in the forest. I met a man there, a very unusual man." The old lady put her right fist in front of her mouth, a gesture signifying fear, wonder, surprise, excitement. She stared at him as though he had come from a faraway place. "You say? I met a man in the forest, a very unusual man, and it seems that time stood still." "I don't understand." "Well, I left in the morning and came back when it was almost dark. And all I did was take a little walk and have a talk with this man. Small. Yeah. I can't understand where the time went, but that's not important. Who is the man? Do you know him?" "I think he lives here in the forest." "Let's go inside." He checked his watch. 8 p.m. She's a half hour late for her disappearing act. This must be about something. He followed her to the hut. She pulled a curtain that acted as a mosquito net firmly into place, but left the door open. Anyone passing could see that they were talking by lantern light. She went to a large straw purse hanging on the wall and pulled out a bottle of apetashi. Kojo looked on in surprise as she poured half full glasses for both of them. Wordlessly, she gave him his glass and turned hers up to swallow in a few gulps. She sprinkled the dregs on the ground and mumbled a prayer. Kojo took a sip and sat down. How can they drink this stuff like that? I'd be knocked out before I finished swallowing. She gestured for him to sit down. He sat and sipped, waiting. I will tell you of this man. Number 2 camera, close up / lighting. No, just use the lantern. It has mystery and charm in it. Lights, camera, action. Mm-hmm. This man is Asiafo, you understand? No. No, I don't. I don't understand. The appetizer was shooting through his guts like a toboggan. Asiafo is a very poisonous spider, very bad. One bite, dead. Asiafo, a bad spirit. I understand now. Evil spirit, Asiafo. This person can speak, that you speak of as wicked, a wicked man. Honestly, I believe what you say. If you say the man is wicked, he's wicked, but what makes him wicked? The old lady poured herself another half glass of the appetizer, downed it and offered him a hook. He waved it off politely. She sat with her head down for a few moments and finally looked dead into his eyes. When I was a girl in this village, this wicked man was banished from the village and cursed for knowing his mother. Kojo took a hard sip of his drink. People were so much into biblical things. For knowing his mother. And thus did Onan know his brother's wife. Are you sure he knew his mother? They were caught by one of the elders. Suddenly Kojo felt a warm thud thump him in his stomach. So he was banished to the forest and cursed. How long ago? It was at least 40 years now. And what happened to his mother? She was a witch and burned in her hut. Kojo felt himself trying to shrug it off. The whole business sounds so medieval. How was this man when he was banished? The old lady took a long moment to count back. He was 20 years. Kojo visualized the man he'd seen in the forest. He looked to be about 35, certainly no older than 40. Auntie, the man I saw today didn't look like a 60-year-old man. He has powers. He has learned powers in the forest. There are people in the village who go to him, not now, but formerly. He held his glass out for another slug. This is interesting. Powers, you say? Like what? Many powers. Can you give me an example? Some examples? He could sense her reluctance to talk about the wizards in the forest, but the appetizer had obviously loosened her tongue. The man who lives in our village had a wife. His wife died. The man did not want her to be dead, so he found the wicked one, the Bokor, and paid him to have his wife back. How much did he pay to have his wife brought back to life? He did not pay money. There was a short, heavy silence. The sounds of the village seemed deadened. This woman was barren 15 years, no children. She went in secret to Asiafo. Later that year, she had twin boys who looked different from any human being. So what happened? The woman was found hanged. The father and the twins were never seen again. Anything else? Kojo felt greedy for more. How often in my life will I come across something like this? There is much, but I cannot tell all. This man has become a creature of mystery. Go ahead on, girl, a creature of mystery. Listen to you. Creature of mystery, huh? Yeah. There are things of the forest that he has learned to give him the power to disappear. To disappear. And to fly like a bird and to become a tree or a snake. And you think these things make him wicked? Dabi. No, not these things alone. There's more. He can read the mind and see into tomorrow. Wow. And he's wicked because he hates everyone. Well, I think that's pretty easy to understand. His mother was burned alive and he was banished to the forest for doing the greatest sin. Men in the village wanted to kill them and all of the family. Are there still family members here? You say, does a wicked man have family here? All moved away many years ago. So, now let me get this straight. A man was banished to the forest 40 years ago. He's out there and developed supernatural powers and all that and has become wicked. She stood swaying a bit and poured another dollop into a glass, slugged it down. 6 people of this village have gone to him to ask him for something, and when they didn't make the proper payment, they were never seen again. Sounds like the Chicago to me, or New York, the mafia stuff. So I understand he's a wicked man. He is wicked, I warn you. The old lady shuffled out, leaving Kojo perched on the edge of his stool, puzzled and curious. There's a hell of a film in all of this. If I can determine which point of view I would be coming from, that if the seams could be sewn that the stitching doesn't show. He undressed and sprawled on his bed, sipping apothecary and thinking, this couldn't be real. This couldn't be not in the 21st century. He forced himself to eat the onion, tomatoes, fish stew sprinkled with gari. He felt a need to line the walls before he started off this morning. You are taking food before your workout? Why? The old girl is sharp, real sharp. I think it's the apothecary. It made me very hungry. There was some degree of truth in what he said. He did feel extremely hungry. After breakfast, he started out. Kojo, I warn you, the old lady cautioned him. Everything is cool, Auntie, everything is cool. She must know that I'm going back. No workout for me this morning. I got to get back out here into this dripping drama. He was disappointed when he got to the small farm, more like a truck garden, and found no one there. Guess Wednesday was the father-in-law's only day. He hesitated for a few seconds before getting on the path that would take him to the place we will not go. He took careful note of the time. 8:15. He looked up at the sky for a long moment. Looked kind of grayish. Hope it doesn't rain on me out here. The trail seemed familiar and longer. Kojo was consciously keeping all of it in perspective. The trail seems longer because I didn't have a good drink of water the way I did before I started out yesterday. 8:45. Did I walk this far yesterday? The forest made him feel as though he were in a great green cathedral. Yeah, the log. I'm right on the money. He straddled a log, wishing he had brought a bottle of water with him. The hand reaching over his left shoulder with the top of a coconut lopped off caused the hair on the back of his head to fright up. His hand trembled as he took the coconut and drank the water from it. Why is he sitting behind me? Maybe he's shy. Thank you. Thank you. You are welcome. Kojo turned to pass the coconut back to the man to discover he was not sitting in front of him. You really get around, don't you? The man nodded pleasantly, took the coconut and smashed it open expertly, scraped 2 large pieces of meat from his shell, handed Kojo a piece, kept one for himself, and threw the rest in the underbrush. They chewed the fresh coconut meat for a few minutes. So now you know all about me.
Ooh.
Once again, Kojo had the fright-weird feeling run up the back of his neck. The man had not asked the question, he had made a blunt statement. Now what? I know what one person has told me. I don't know your story. She told you the correct story.
Okay.
His expression didn't change. There was no body language to indicate that he felt ashamed, remorseful, or evil. Shrill bird cries filled up the word space between them. Kojo decided to deal with the man. There was no other way to go. So you've been living here in the forest since you were banished? Yes. I am Kojo Bediako Brown. They called me Asiafo. That's your real name? It's the only name I have ever known. Asiafo, the poison spider, the one with evil intentions, the evil spirit. Kojo studied the man's face and form. He's got to be the healthiest man I've ever seen in my life. No wrinkles, no bags under his eyes, not an ounce of fat, all his teeth, serene looking. This brother knows something. He gave Kojo the feeling that he could talk if they talked or simply sit and look at each other. They were still going to be communicating. Asiafo, may I ask you a few questions? Do you want to get wet? Huh? It's going to rain heavily in a few minutes. No, I don't want to get wet. Asiafo slipped from the log and beckoned to Kojo to follow him. 6 people of this village had gone to him to ask him for something, and when they didn't make the proper payment, they were never seen again.
Well,
I haven't asked him for anything. I don't owe him anything. I'm okay, I hope. After a couple of minutes of fast walking, they came to a small clearing with a large hut made of banana leaves. I've seen this before. What's that book called? One about the Ituri forest people, the so-called pygmies. Same structure. 10 seconds after they ducked inside, the rain sloshed down. Whoa, we made it just in time. How did you know? The man, Asiafo, cut his question to pieces with a look. How could they live in the forest this long and not know when it's going to rain?
mm-hmm. Dum-dum. You the stupid.
The man lit 2 wicks floating in an oil-filled half-coconut shell. Kojo didn't conceal his curiosity. He stared at the vine contraption, animals, traps, the woven baskets, the hats, the hand-fashioned tools. His brother has everything he needs. Well, almost everything. Please sit down and relax. This rain won't last long. Kojo sat on a beautifully carved stool, carved from a tree stump that was still partially attached. If this is an evil man, he certainly has an eye for beautiful things. Asiafo started a small fire in a deep hole in the center of the hut with flint sparks and dry moss. Kojo stared at the process, fascinated. No, I don't believe this. He fed the fire with a few twigs and then larger sticks of wood. The lamp wick light and the fire gave the interior a bright, warm, hospitable look. Asiafo sat on the other side of the hut listening to the rain. Kojo couldn't hold back any longer. There were things he had to know. Asiafo, I want to ask you a few questions. Yes. The man gave Kojo his complete attention. The effect was that of a person who could focus immediately. Mm-hmm. What I want to know? Everything. What happens when you get sick? Asiafo smiled in a patronizing way. I don't believe in sickness. Mm-hmm. I don't either, but let's say a mosquito bites you and you get malaria. No sickness here. I have medicines. You have a medicine for malaria? Yes. There was a way he said it that was so definite. You have other medicines? Yes. Mm-hmm. You have a medicine for AIDS, cancer, the common colds? We don't have those things here. But do you have medicine for them? Yes. Mm-hmm. Kojo gazed into the fire for a thoughtful moment. Where am I? Where is all of this? Can I make a film out of it? Mm-hmm. You want to make a film of this? The man asked sweetly. Kojo stared into the eyes of a man who could read minds and was clairvoyant. He felt like a baby just learning how to form words. Mm-hmm. Yes, if not this, then other films. Films that would change minds and attitudes. Films that would be wonderful, reasonable, sensitive. Why don't you do these films? Kojo was back on his turf now. You may be able to fly, pal, and have medicine for incurable diseases and all that, but there's something quite different when it comes to filmmaking, Mr. Asiafo. It takes money that I don't have. How much? Lots, like millions. I'm not talking CDs, I'm talking dollars. The rain seemed to be pounding the leaves like downstroking foo-foo sticks. They were silent. It is possible for you to have millions to do your film.
Millions?
Kojo stifled the urge to laugh. A half-naked man making fire with sparks, living in a banana leaf hut in the middle of the equatorial rainforest, is telling me that it's possible to have the millions to do my films, fulfill my vision. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah? How do I get these millions? Come back on the log and on Saturday I will have your answers. The rain has stopped. I will guide you back to the log. Kojo stood feeling lightheaded, carefree. My problems are over, solved. Ain't nothing to worry about. Mm-hmm. That was the effect of the man's words on his mind. The fog was dripping raindrops from its leaves, making a crystalline picture through the huge fern branches, the tangled undergrowth. Kojo followed the man of the forest, trying to step where he stepped, to bend on the branches the way he did. When they arrived at the log, their departure point, Kojo stuck out his hand to shake Asiafo's hand to tell him he appreciated his hospitality. Asiafo was gone. Oh well, I'll see him Saturday. Yes! The voice echoed from above his head. I'll see you Saturday.
Oh Lord.
He walked a few hundred yards and held his wrist up to check the time. 9:30 a.m. No. It couldn't be. It's got to be later than that. He did a clear-minded backtrack. Met the man on the log. It was 8:45 a.m. We talked. We walked to his hut to get out of the rain. It rained for a long time. We talked some more. We walked back to the log. It's got to be later than 9:30. He held his watch up to his ear. Mm-hmm. A fine timepiece was ticking like a metronome. All this happened in 15 minutes? Mm-hmm. Something real strange going on here.
You better believe
it. Yeah, you better believe it. Kojo spent the rest of the morning and early afternoon strolling around the village, mentally photographing everybody and their activities. Children work here. An 8-year-old girl carrying a bucket of water on her head that is heavier than she is. The women pounded cassava, washed, carried loads from distant places on their heads, cleaned houses, fed babies, fed their husbands, sewed, ironed, worked. The younger men farmed. It seemed that the only group in the village who were exempt from labor were the old men, the elders. They played checkers, wari, cards, drank apateshi, and made decisions. Kojo, will you take the evening meal now? I'm not really hungry just now. Can I take a rain check? You say? I'll eat a little later. I wonder how I'm going to handle this when I leave here. This sister ain't done nothing but feed me, tell me about things, give me insights. Maybe I could give her, I don't know, 100,000 CD. Yeah, that would make her day. Obviously, the CD exchange to the dollar is quite high. He stood on the fringe of the crowd watching the girls in the center dance. They were painted, white powdered, bare-breasted. I'm sure I must be the only one here who noticed stuff like this. The dance was part of a puberty rites cycle ceremony. The girls were almost at the point of being considered women in the community. It would take a husband and a child or children to give them full validity. Auntie, what happens if a woman can't have children for some reason? Oh, that is very bad. The husband will not be pleased. The village will not be pleased. It is bad. Where are your children? They are scattered like the four winds, she spoke proudly. I have 3 sons and 1 daughter. The oldest boy is a doctor in UK. The other 2 are doing business in Accra. And the girls is a teacher at Accra Girls Secondary School. That's great. Do you see them often? Sometimes too often. They come when they have problems or when they want my food. Friday staggered, shuffled, slugged his way through Kojo's life. He was invited to come to give a little talk at Tsito school by the headmistress herself. Kojo felt somewhat flattered, but just a bit annoyed at the same time. He wanted to fix himself into a receptive mode for whatever Asiafo was going to bring him on Saturday. The invitation to come and give a talk to the children was an excuse Cutie Pie Deku was using to reel him in closer. The girl ain't dumb, I got to give it to her. What do you want me to talk about? Why not talk about America? They would like that. We seldom have visitors from abroad come to Tsito. It would be interesting for the children. Okay, we have a map of North America. We have a globe. Good. 2 p.m. We'll have to talk about just before they leave home. Yeah, we'll have you talk just before they leave for home. It'll give them something to remember. Kojo made careful preparation for his appearance at Tsito School. He had decided to title his talk, "What is an African American?" He started making a few notes and wound up with 8 pages of notes.
Wow.
And I'm going to stop there at the end of page 9.
Oh, the end of chapter 8?
That was chapter 8 and 9.
Oh, 8 and 9.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Yes. I'm just reading my brains out.
Okay, so the
Chapter
next
8.
reading will be chapter 10.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So, as things go, I wanted to have like a little
Whoa,
a little interlude,
serious.
a little break before he met with Asiafo the next day. You know, it's
Saturday.
Saturday, yeah. It adds a little bit of a suspense in that.
Yes, it does.
Will he show up? Will he come? What information will he bring?
Well, since Asiafo can see the future, he knows he will come on Saturday. So he says, I will see you Saturday.
Okay, but Kojo doesn't know that he knows that. He only knows what he's been told. But
Well,
he has reaffirmation that now, yeah, maybe...
the man answers questions he has not voiced.
He's read his mind.
And he has not enough sense to get out of there.
You know, that's funny. You can ask people who might seem to be unschooled or uneducated, to put it this way. Some question about what do you think of Othello's relationship with Iago, and he may or may not know, but they can take you outside and read, tell you what direction a stray dog walked down the street by looking at the, you know what I mean?
Right.
They know what they know. There was an anthropologist who went to stay with the Kalahari people, and they frequently have huge droughts. You know, hasn't rained in 5 years or 6 years. These people sometimes put water in oyster shells and bury them, you know, in different places. And they're wandering across the area, you know, maybe half the size of Texas, and they know where these 5 oyster shells are buried. The anthropologist is running along. He's dying of thirst.
Right.
And he's saying, what if the water isn't there? You know, what if you lost your way? And the man he's talking to said, you know, like, how could I lose my way? This is my neighborhood.
Thank you.
You know, I live down the street.
A sand dune is a sand dune is a sand dune.
Yeah, you're not seeing what I'm saying. The same thing is happening here as I'm trying to establish it, that this is somebody who might be unschooled in the academic sense,
right,
but knows something.
Certainly does.
Knows something.
Woo! Okay.
So I'm going to save that until tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Chapter 9.
And get busy on the synopsis of 8 and 9.
8 and 9. So chapter 10 tomorrow.
Sure.
From the Snake 2020.
From the Snake 2020.
Which is the African American version of the snake, as opposed to the United Kingdom English version of the snake. And so, thank you very much. Covered by Cedric Adams.
Covered by Cedric Adams on the front, and the
author's
photo on the rear by Salena-Hawkins. I have no intention of leaving you out of this process at all.
I see.
Because when they come for me, blaming me for everything, I'll be able to shuffle some of the blame out. I didn't do it. I like the little kids say, "What me? It wasn't me."
And I see you have Osu, your capoeira shirt on today.
I do.
Yes,
I do. Because it puts me back into Ghana and doing what we were doing.
I hear you.
You know.
Well, tomorrow, Chapter 10. Your books can be purchased on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, local bookstore. Just go in and say, I want a book by Odie Hawkins. You can check out his books on www.odiehawkins.com, his website. And if you like these moments in time, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Ciao.